Welcome everyone to our workshop today, Empowering Educators, Leveraging ChatGPT to Enhance Teaching and Learning. Patty, Rose, and I are instructional designers, and we are part of the academic technology here at Antioch University.
Hi, this is our workshop agenda today. We're going to talk a little bit about what it is not, how you can leverage chat. We're going to demo chat. If you haven't been on or logged into chat yet, you'll get to watch Christy demo. And then we're going to have an open discussion about chat and maybe a little bit talk about the future of chat.
Thanks. Rose, did you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Rose Johnson. I'm another one of the instructional designers with AT.
Well, so getting started, you've probably heard about ChatGPT and you might have some questions. You've seen it all over the place, probably the Chronicle, Inside Higher Ed, Wall Street Journal. Everyone is talking about it right now. This is our first conversation around ChatGPT. So full disclosure here, Patty, Rose, and myself are not experts in ChatGPT, but we do have a passion and a curiosity for what this tool can do, what it could look like, how it can shape our teaching and learning experiences. So, we just wanted to share that with everyone. We're not trying to create alarm or we're trying to present it in a positive, mindset, because this could be used for a lot of great things. As with any tool, it could also be used for not great things. But I think we've all seen too that, this is disruptive technology, but it's like when the calculator first emerged, when Google, YouTube, Wikipedia were all launching, there were fears and concerns, but then it has been advantageous in many ways as well. So we're just here to have a conversation today, and feel free to interact with us, to get in the chat, to chime in, whatever you feel comfortable doing. So Patty, if you don't mind, the next slide. So just to hear from you, our audience today, we want to see what brought you here today. And if you feel comfortable and would like to enter something into the chat, that would be great. If you wish to unmute and share your purpose or expectations, we'd love that too. Academic integrity concerns, definitely. And hear what the discussion is. Using it for good and evil. Exactly. That's a great one. Listen and learn. Perfect. Well, as you feel comfortable and as those are coming in, we'll go ahead and advance to the next slide. Optimistic, yes, another level of Google, definitely. These are all great ideas, great expectations here. Exactly, move past the idea for this is a plagiarism tool or either creator, preventer, however you wish to view it. Yes, I mean, there will be concerns for academic integrity, but I'm hopeful that we'll be able to talk about some positive ways that it could be leveraged in your classroom as well. Okay, so Patty, if we want to go on to the next slide. We're going to explore a basic understanding first. I think that's helpful if we know where we're coming from and we're all on the same page. It's very popular. So this is a tool that has been launched in November of 2022, and it has become mega popular. It's grown faster than any other social media form like TikTok or Instagram. When it launched in November, 2 months after launching, it had over 100 million monthly users subscribed. So they were actively using this. 100 million in 60 days is unreal. So clearly the popularity is there. ChatGPT is an artificial intelligence chat box. What does that mean? Well, it's not Alexa. It has no personality. It's not Google. It won't always give you the right answers, but I mean, does Google always give you the right answers either? And ChatGPT is not human. It can't bring the experiences, the emotion, the passion. It can't bring that to the conversation. So actually, if you do ask ChatGPT what it is, which you can see in one of our resources at the end of this presentation, it will tell you this. And if I had a robot voice, this is where I would say, I'm an artificial intelligence assistant trained to assist users with a variety of tasks, including understanding questions and providing information on a wide range of topics. I do not have personal feelings or experiences, and my knowledge is based on the data that was used to train me. I am here to help you use me to the best of my ability. So please let me know if you have any questions or need assistance with anything. So I think that's a great segment to get started, because that's exactly the essence of ChatGPT. So we can ask it questions, we can ask it prompts, we can ask it to create things for us. It is not connected to the internet. I think that's important to note. The data that it has is all stored up until 2021. So if you're asking something more current, it's not going to know. It won't have the answers. And one of the things that makes ChatGPT not so trustworthy is to make up for those knowledge gaps that it does not know. It may say things it may just make it up. It may be a lie. It could just be something totally absurd, but it may make up stuff instead of saying error or can't compute. And that's where the real problem lies, is that one of the problems is that it's going to make up the answer. And then we're going to have to do our due diligence to see if that is actually correct or not. So right now, ChatGPT is free. It's in the research preview stage. So that means all of us that are using it right now, we're helping improve the tool. So right now we're actively going out there, building content, uploading content, sharing ideas and thoughts. We are helping build ChatGPT. At the slide deck at the end of this, there's a great presentation, Google Doc called ChatGPT in Education. And Dr. Tori Trust with the University of Massachusetts Amherst is the one that created this. It is continuously being updated. It gives an amazing foundation to what ChatGPT is, what it is not, and how you can use it. The document provides so many great examples, and he explains how you could use it to generate role-playing scenarios. You could have simulations. You could ask ChatGPT to choose your own adventure. Create a story about your own adventure. Use it to help write grant applications. You could also use ChatGPT to create an academic paper title. Maybe you're struggling with something creative, something fun, and you want a list of different titles that might be helpful. It could create slogans for you. It can help design, create, and solve math and science problems. So as you can see from all of this information, a lot of the corporations are very interested in working with OpenAI, who is the one that really created this ChatGPT, this version. And you have companies like Google and Microsoft and Apple, and they're all interested in this, in artificial intelligence. What can it do? How can it be integrated into different platforms? So I think we're going to continue, obviously, to see the growth of AI in all aspects of our lives. If you want to advance to the next slide, Patty, thank you. So what is ChatGPT not as of right now? Well, it is not human. So as we said, it does not have a human voice, an experience, or emotion. So it's basically regurgitating a lot of data that it has compiled. And I feel like for people in different sectors of different industries, they feel maybe my job's going to be eliminated. You know, I'm an editor, I'm a copywriter. No, because it can't bring that human experience, that human emotion, that human passion to the writing. So, and as of right now, again, this is as of today, it is not able to provide non-text based responses. So meaning you can't ask ChatGPT to create a TikTok style video. You can't ask it to create an interactive Google map. So those are some things, some of the limitations to think about right now. You know, it is continuing to grow and change. And if you ask ChatGPT, what does the future like? What does it look like? You know, what might be coming? It does not know. So it cannot predict the future. You know, OpenAI is trying to mitigate potential harms, because we do want to talk a little bit about obviously the dark side to this. They're creating some guardrails, because in the beginning there were some ways, you know, if you keep on with the same conversation and keep promoting that conversation, it gets into that rhythm, it gets into that, it's hearing your voice, if you will, and it can get biased. And it again is just regurgitating data. So that's where it can go left. You know, it can take that wrong left-hand turn. So OpenAI is trying to create some guardrails to prevent that biased kind of negative talk that it could happen. So if you ask ChatGPT, what can humans do that ChatGPT cannot? ChatGPT will tell you that it does not have emotional intelligence. It can't experience emotions, empathy, human intuition. It does not have the same level of creativity. You know, it cannot create patterns. It can do some problem solving on a limited basis. It does not have independent thought or original thought. So it's a very powerful tool, again, for generating language, but it is using the language that it has been trained on.
Do you want to eat at one?
So Patty, if you don't mind advancing to the next slide. So here, this is where we thought we would dive in a little bit and see how can you leverage ChatGPT in your teaching. So before we do the demo, we thought it might be a good idea to brainstorm some different ideas. Oh, no worries, Alexis. And so these are a few that we have captured. Again, you can even ask ChatGPT, how could I use this in my teaching and learning? And these are some of the different answers that it will come up with. So I'll give you a couple seconds here just to look over the list. What I thought was helpful is helping with brainstorming, helping if you have writer's block, prompting for ideas. If you have a very complicated theory and you are the expert, you understand the theory, but you're trying to explain it to a novice, someone who may not quite have that level of understanding, you can ask ChatGPT to explain it at a certain level. You know, you could say, please explain this theory at a 9th grade reading level, or, you know, whatever you think is appropriate. So I wanted to just share those. And then what we can do now is we can actually go into ChatGPT. So Patty, if you want to advance to the next slide, and then I will share my screen here. So I'm logged into ChatGPT right now. If everyone can see my screen, hopefully. We're good.
Christy, zoom in a little bit. Could you? If you
Sure.
hit Control plus.
Plus, okay.
Maybe. There we go. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Yes, thank you for letting me know that. So when you first come out to ChatGPT, you will have to create your own user account. That's a whole nother thing that we do have some information on. But right now we're going to focus on, once you have your account set up, what is it that I'm really going to do? So you can see that this is ChatGPT. It gives you a couple examples here of different things you could ask it to do. It's telling you the capabilities. It will remember what you've said in other conversations. And here are the limitations. It's acknowledging that it does have bias. It's acknowledging that it's obviously only up to date until 2021. One thing that I found interesting is that when you do ask ChatGPT a prompt, it does not go away. It does not delete. So when you ask a prompt, even ChatGPT recommends that it's something that you feel is appropriate because it will not go away. This is all part of that building process. So down here, you can see this text box, and this is send a message. This is where you can actually type in your message. So I don't know, does anybody have something that you were interested in asking ChatGPT? Something on your mind?
Yes, I do. I'm
Perfect.
curious about in darkened feminist epistemology.
Okay. Okay, so let's just do, and I apologize if I misspell things because I am not the best with spelling. In darkened feminist, and then was it,
Epistemology.
okay.
Rose put it in the chat if you want to.
Thank you, Rose. I appreciate that. And there's nothing like the pressure of everybody watching you while you're trying to type and spell correctly.
Yeah, right.
So what you do,
Second E in epistemology.
okay,
Oh, okay.
there we go, perfect. So out here you can either click enter or hit this arrow, and now what it's doing is it's compiling the information that is in the database. This is live. This is what's different than Google. It's not giving us any specific resources, references. You know, what journal article did this get this from? Where did it get this information? I don't know. It's just compiling it.
As a follow-on, may I then query it
Sure.
to ask for sources?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure, no problem. Perfect, thank you. So again, you can see that it's compiling information, and now this is great that it will provide you with some of the authors and the journal articles that it was referencing. You know, as you're using ChatGPT, you can think about if you need some help with some different prompts, some different questions. You can see over here my examples that I have asked it. You know, I did ask it, what is the meaning of life? Because I think we all want to know that, right? So ChatGPT can be used academically, personally. My son has asked it for apple pie recipes. We have not tried that apple pie yet, though. So it's interesting the diverse ways that it could be used. And that's part of where, you know, we wanted to have the conversation today. So do we have any other questions or anything you would like me to ask ChatGPT right now before we start just having a conversation? Is anybody interested?
Someone in the
No.
chat, John asked in the chat if it could provide an outline for teaching a class on a specific topic.
Yes, it can. The more specific you are, the more likely you are to get more details. Oh, and this is a great point. Because we are talking about feminist theory, that's nothing to do with this new topic. So what you need to do is go start a new chat, because this is a whole new conversation. So that was a lesson learned while we're typing. And then you can see on the left hand, it did save everything over here to my conversations. Did we have any other questions before we want to have ChatGPT answer before we move on?
John had a suggestion.
Oh.
John Conta.
That's a good idea. Okay. So can it provide Oh, I guess I didn't probably ask that the best way possible. Go back to, let's see. I guess it isn't, well, it's close to.
What if you asked a new question
what
and
I
then
meant
said,
was,
please include APA
what I meant
citations within your answer?
What I
Okay.
meant was I was curious to see if you can ask it like a topic and like feminist theory, and then try to see if you can do a follow-up to integrate, or I don't know if you can ask the same in the same question to see if it does like APA in-text citation. Kind of just curious.
Me too.
Okay, so
John, this is Akhil Tirmizi, Graduate School of Leadership and Change. So when I started playing with it, that's precisely what I did. So it can actually integrate. Sometimes it ignored me also. It can actually integrate, as it is producing text, it can actually integrate, cite, and provide references. So sometimes it did that. On other occasions, it did not do that. But while I have the floor, I think just one thing that I think that helped me as I was initially navigating, this world, was, basic difference between how we have been using computers for the past 30 years and what is so really unique about this possibility. And I think in one word, I think it's this platform's ability to generate as opposed to compute and calculate. That's where the big difference is. So I think when I now sort of approach my engagements with it, I sort of go in there with the mentality that its most fundamental capability and difference or advancement is that it can create and it can generate, right? So
yes.
in Google Scholar, we get a long list of resources very easily. So the machine is telling us what's out there, but it's not creating or generating. So I think that's where probably the biggest promise of this technology is. Thank you, Christy.
Thank you. That's an excellent explanation. That's fantastic. And I was not aware that it could integrate sources. So that's very interesting, learning right along with you. So that is great. All right, let's see. I'm just checking some of the things in the chat here. Do we have any other things? I guess we could just go ahead and open it up for a conversation. Let's, we want to hear what your thoughts are. What are your concerns? You can see there's a great number of possibilities, but also some limitations.
I'm just curious. I want to have another follow-up conversation. I'm
Sure.
curious. I just put in something in the chat because the reason why I'm looking for these to see the integration of the in-text citation is I know this is really great. I mean, we were all nervous when the internet was out a long time ago, but then it ended up being good to all of us.
Right. Right.
Here we go again moment with GPT. I'm curious, like, how do we say a student gets into ChatGPT and creates a paper, and APA style is all built in there. But then I'm curious about even the ideas that are there that are not cited or versus cited. Is it really the knowledge of the student? Like, I'm thinking of the ethical pieces. Maybe I'm getting too drunk on ethics.
Christy,
I'm thinking of the ethical pieces. Is that your writing, or is it the
Right.
writing of a machine?
you
And maybe we all can can revamp the code of ethics of research and all that, maybe when we get there someday, but the machine is writing it for you. I'm just something to think about.
Definitely.
Sorry, Christy, do you mind if I take this one or start this one?
Sure. Go right ahead. Yes.
I think that to me, when sorry. Never mind.
Oh. Patty, do you want to share? We can just go back to the PowerPoint if you'd like.
To me, I think it ends up being similar to a student paying for a paper. Maybe they had some input, right? It's not plagiarized in the sense that they copied a journal article, but it's not student learning. And I think that when you're thinking about how to deal with that, I don't think this is quite the question you asked, John, but I'm going to spiral out from it. If I got a paper that didn't look like the rest of my students' papers, I would then talk to that student rather than think about the ethics of if it's their work or not, because I don't think it's not, right? It's just not. At the end of the day, they type something into something and it spit it back out. So my question would then be like, okay, why are you using ChatGPT for this? What part of the assignment, like what else is going on that you felt you needed to do this rather than try to do this yourself? And in terms of assignment structure, that's also a point where I would say, okay, how is this a question that can be answered by an AI versus a question that needs synthesis and human creativity and linking other class materials or the lecture or things that ChatGPT has no access to. How can I reframe my prompt or my question to get at those things rather than something that an AI can spit out?
I think that's an excellent point, Rose. As we were preparing for today's workshop, we were having some conversations, and really, ChatGPT is just on the new frontier here. There's going to be, like someone else mentioned, it might have been, I can't remember if it was you, John, that this is kind of like when the internet and everything was just evolving, and we're having to learn. As instructional designers, we're happy to help you with some of that learning. I'm going to put a shameless plug in right now for our office. Within the academic technology team, we can help you, look at some of the things that you're asking. Our expertise lies in, student learning, teaching, in adult pedagogy, in online education. So you're the content experts and you have such vast experience and knowledge, and we would love to bounce ideas off of you, with you, to chat with you, because I think that it's going to require all of us in all areas of our life, I believe, to start examining, what we're thinking, how we're asking things. To Rose's point, I can show you, I have a Google document that's linked here, sample of some of my prompts and ChatGPT responses. I can ask it for, give me a summary of Pride and Prejudice, and it regurgitates it. So how could I ask that in a better way so that a student has to think about it and learn, and not just rely, even going out to Wikipedia, or go to YouTube, TikTok. That's where so many students, I believe, are going to right now. So I think we have the conversation focusing around how are we changing? How are we adapting to some of this? And it's kind of deepening our own understanding as well as deepening student learning, if that makes sense.
There's two questions in the chat that are fascinating me to kind of throw out to the group. One is from Debbie Allen. If a student uses a direct quote from ChatGPT, do they cite it as a reference? And Sandra Kenny would like to know if there's a way for faculty to find out if ChatGPT was used for a paper or an assignment.
Well, this is a key. So if folks haven't heard of GPT-0, I'm sure some of you on the call have. So that's the tool that OpenAI has, or one of the developers has put out there. I think a number of educators have signed up for it. So I think it's a philosophical question over here. How do you want to deal with it? So if you want to go and check if AI was used, you throw the paper on this platform and it will tell you, just like if you have used Grammarly, it will do a similarity report. It will tell you if the text has been generated by AI. But I think the bigger question, and we don't have to resolve it, I just see this conversation today as an invitation to, in a robust way, to think about what might be some other creative possibilities, so that we are not relying on tools such as GPT-0 to say to the students, hey, your work was copied. But what can we do creatively, where we invite students to draw on the strengths of what the platform offers, where they learn some of the fundamentals that we want them to learn, but then also as partners in learning journey, we can do more, and we can do things differently, and can do things efficiently. I mean, I don't have the answers, but these are some of the things that have been coming up for me as I have asked chat or engaged with the platform to create example syllabi, to do paper outline, just to see what the students' experience would be like. So it's very, very powerful, but I think we need to figure out how to use it. And if someone comes to you today and say, oh, here is advice on how to use it, I would be careful, because I think we are just all learning about it today. So anyway, I will stop here.
I do want to echo that's the approach I would take as well. And I think that that's the more appropriate approach for college or graduate level learning, is to think more creatively about the use of tools like this.
And that's a very great point. I think that was very well said, because one thing to note is, we want to have that conversation with the students to promote that active learning. I did see where the US Constitution was run through a ChatGPT detector, and it came up as created by ChatGPT. So we all know the Constitution was not. I think, that creates additional questions then. How do you approach that? How would you start that conversation with the students? So the plagiarism detectors are always going to lag behind. And it's, again, I think it's the essence of what type of questions, how are we engaging the students, to what level of thinking?
I mean, it cannot, if you ask me to write a reflection about my experience, it can't do that for me. It doesn't know me. So it isn't personable. It isn't about my authentic experiences. So that's one of the things that you can integrate into the assignments that would make, and you can't get that information. You can get scholarly information, you can get general information. The other thing is, I had someone ask a question and I said, hey, this is a great ChatGPT question, because it'll generate an answer for a student. But we could be more specific about it. We could say, using the resources in this week's coursework or whatever, or this week's resources, explain why you have that opinion. So we're focusing a little bit more, and ChatGPT is not going to know what this week's resources. I mean, yes, if the student is super clever, they may be able to get some more information out of that. But again, it's the questions, those more authentic questions that you ask that are, ChatGPT just cannot answer.
And Leslie brings up an excellent point. It most certainly could be referencing biased information.
And maybe to be more definitive, it absolutely is referencing biased information.
Right, yeah, yes.
and
Great.
false information. And it
Yes,
makes
right.
things up when it doesn't have complete information.
Right.
So.
Exactly.
And
all these
expresses
things.
that confidently, whether they're right or wrong.
Yeah, it's definitely not infallible. So that's something you need to look for as an instructor too. It's like, wow, where did, this doesn't make sense. This is not correct. So that would be when you went back to the student and said, where did you get this information? Hi, Chris, did you want to share? I mean, I think your example before we, move forward to like the total open discussion. I really liked your example of the wedding vows between the dogs.
Sure.
Because
sure.
it shows a lot of creativity. I mean, how creative ChatGPT can be. So if you wouldn't mind sharing that, I think it would be interesting for all of us.
Sure. Right now, it looks like I'm not able to share. Would you give me
I'll
share
stop sharing.
access?
Should I stop sharing?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Perfect. All right, just 1 second here. So in the early stages of ChatGPT back in January, I was sitting around with a friend and each of us have a dog, and there may have been some, some relaxing times that we were having, and we were nerding out a little bit, if you will, on ChatGPT. And we had the idea of what if our dogs got married this summer? We would need wedding vows, right? So this was my prompt: write wedding vows for 2 dogs, a male Australian Shepherd Doodle mix and a female Yellow Lab. Make it funny and very absurd and end with some levity. So, it can put in all the puns. It can be, I guess, here's a little bit of creativity, obviously. But I think as Patty and I were discussing about this too, it's still lacking things. There's still that human element that's always needed. Yes, it's great. These are nice, but it's something that you can start with. It's that foundation, and then maybe you would want to explore and build on it.
Yeah, I mentioned to Christy when I saw this, I said, this is really cute. I can't believe it can do this. But then I thought, okay, this is a good start. But if you really want to know more, you would go back to or maybe the assignment would be, yes, write this, but then tell me more about who, where the venue was, or put the venue somewhere local in your neighborhood, and what was going on before the earlier that day, and a lot of information that or a lot of creativity that isn't here, but you could build on with this particular assignment. I mean, I think it can do some really fantastic things, but it isn't. The student has to keep building on that to make it even more creative and personal.
I just wanted to say that I think that a lot of the activities and assignments, writing assignments that I have seen at Antioch specifically are fairly resistant to ChatGPT being able to answer them successfully, because they so heavily rely on real life examples, lived experiences, the connections to social justice. You can ask ChatGPT to pull it in, but it's, can be hit or miss. But that fact alone, that most of the writing that I see being asked of students has experiential learning and human elements tied into it. And this tool is simply not going to be able to give good responses to that. So I think a lot of Antioch people are starting from a better place than the educational system at large, perhaps, who have much more traditional, just, straight research questions that are being asked of students.
Yes, John?
I keep wondering, since ChatGPT looks like a training tool that maybe educators and students can tap into at some point as we are learning about it. I wonder, there are so many extremist groups out there. I'm thinking of biasness. How many people are searching into this engine or whatever we call it, this machine, and how this machine is storing all of those biases and keeping them somewhere in a search history and regurgitating them. And here we are in a human, in the human services, counseling, specifically counseling, working with other people with, hoping that, we play our own part in what's going on in lives of people, touch lives. But then here's this machine that is going to tell us about, I'm just nervous about the biasness, because extremist group can tap into this and then we just get a whole lot of things as to how, telling us something else that is just, folks are just typing biased stuff like we're seeing in the social media. Anybody can go and post their biased stuff or talk about stuff. And then it blows up and here's the machine keeping it. I'm just thinking broadly here.
Yes, I think that's an important point, and that is one of the things that that they have actually noted on ChatGPT's site when you log in. It says, it may occasionally generate incorrect information, may occasionally produce harmful instructions or biased content, limited knowledge of the world and events after 2021. And so I think your point is very valid, and I'm hoping that the people that are behind this great machine are doing some real thinking, because as more information is added and added and added, what guardrails, how are they going to protect? And that leads into so many different conversations, freedom of speech, hate speech. There's a lot at stake here. And I feel like I'm excited because this is just the beginning of the conversation. And hopefully we can help shape it in a positive way. I think Johnny, Johnny Spangler.
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me okay?
It's a little bit in and out, but I think
of the road in my car. And wanted to make sure I could be part of the conversation. So sorry if I'm in and out. Cell phone.
Oh, I think you're out right now.
I've been using this and say bullet point summaries, and then I can use those bullet point summaries as I'm reading the article or the email to kind of make sure I'm not missing major points. Or oftentimes that's something I run into. And vice versa, I can write in short sentences and ask it to pretty it up. It almost becomes the next level of a spell check. People would, it isn't professional to give something that has bad spelling. And I've been talking to a lot of students who are neurodiverse, and they're like, there's a lot of extra words we have to put into our writing in order to come across as professional. ChatGPT can do that in some situations. And so I've been playing a lot of this in my head of how do I feel about this as an accommodation tool? And what is someone's writing versus a spell check versus what is someone's writing versus an algorithm or I guess an AI coming in and expanding on it for them. But yeah, I wanted to kind of toss that in as an accommodation tool in the conversation.
That's a great perspective, Johnny. Thanks for giving your experience and your thoughts. Yeah, and to that point, I think, you know, as you were mentioning, using ChatGPT for outlines, for bullet points, finding key terms, making sure, you know, you're on the right path, doing some brainstorming, as Bonnie was typing in here as well. You can also use it to generate a good writing sample and ask it to generate a bad writing sample to share with students to help them learn along the process as well as, you know, structure wise, what sort of things are the elements that make a good paper, or what makes it a bad paper. So it can produce some of those, save you that mundane task and give you something that you could then change and incorporate into your class. Does anybody have it? Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. There's a question from Debbie in the chat. Can someone dictate a paper and then have ChatGPT clean it up and still have the voice of the writer?
Does anybody have thoughts on that?
Yes, very much so. This has been my experience. Actually, if I write a paper and stick it through, or like a longer email, stick it through GPT and ask it to formalize this in a semi-formal language, it will pass like the GPT-0 at 0%. It still sees it as my language, and reading it, it still looks like my language, but it will fix some terminology. It'll make things flow a little bit better. Sometimes it might move 1-2 thoughts together that fit better together. It's a really nice copy editor, but it doesn't actually change the voice of it if you give it a full written and well thought out thing rather than just small prompts.
That's such a fascinating thing and such a helpful response. I didn't even conceive that it could do that. Interesting.
Thank you for sharing. Yes, I was excited for this to learn just as much as hopefully all of you are learning today as well. Oh yes, Gary.
Yes, thank you. I'm just from the last comment, I'm just curious about how long of a prompt can be submitted.
I don't know if any of you, I haven't found a limit yet, but I haven't really tried to push it. Pages and pages.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, Maria.
Yeah, I have a question, and maybe you've touched on this, but I just want to get clarity. So with this option, with this resource, because students or anybody could actually create a Word document with what I've seen here pretty quickly and accessibly, but it seems to pull from different places. And I noticed that in the past couple of weeks, or at least in different meetings I've heard or we've been in, more and more faculty are asking for a plagiarism software to address some of the concerns with this. Would that even pick that up though?
Depends on the plagiarism tool. Sorry, Christy.
Oh yeah, no, go right ahead.
Because it depends on what they're pulling from. I doubt it. I do like to compare this to a student paying for a paper, because if I pay Christy to write my paper, that's not going to show up in any plagiarism tool either, because it is an original work. It's just not my original work.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So I imagine ChatGPT would be similar, because plagiarism tools look for web content, journal articles, and student papers added to the repository, and ChatGPT is not necessarily any of those.
That's helpful to know and to share with others. Okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
On the other hand, Rose, the builders of GPT-0 argue that it, when they run this sort of, I guess, similarity check, it's just not looking for where the information might have been pulled. It actually checks for how the words and the text was generated. So therefore, they claim that that their platform, GPT-0, would pick on that and let you know. I've experimented with it, and it does do that to some extent.
Right. So that would be then a plagiarism and an AI check.
That's right.
One or the other. Right.
Anybody else have any thoughts or experiences or anything you wish to share?
I have this might be kind of, my dogs haven't barked all day, so I think
That's what they always do.
I was just guessing that, some of my assignments, I have questions to students to answer, and I assume that, if they're not thinking too much about it, you could have a student who just literally types my exact question into the ChatGPT to generate a response. I'm wondering if that were to happen, would that just give the exact same response? Like, let's say 3 students type that in, would they get the exact same response from ChatGPT based on the exact language, or does it generate different responses every time to the same question?
I wondered that too. Christy, have you had any experience asking it the same question a few times and seeing if it gave you the same answer?
I know I have not done that actually.
I've tried that before, and
Okay.
it generates a different response. I did it like 4 or 5 times, and it
Okay.
changes it a lot. Although you can see the main ideas come about,
Mhm.
but it just changes the wording a lot.
Right. I've done where I've asked it like, tell me about the main, or tell me about common leadership styles. And it will regurgitate 10 or 12 different points and different styles, different examples, each with a couple sentences. It has a very specific cadence. ChatGPT has a very specific way it writes, if you will. Then I'll say elaborate, and it will rephrase a lot of those, reposition those, add a few new words here and there, and then I'll say like expand on that. And so I guess in a way that's a little bit of a test, but yeah, I think the cadence too and the main ideas will be very similar, I would imagine.
I think that from my perspective, I don't know that I would mind students doing that as long as they don't then just take cut and paste and here's your paper. I would want them to really kind of like take the ideas that are generated and synthesize them in their own voice, use them to kind of then maybe start the conversation that they're having and thinking about then completing my assignment. I don't mind that they would use it. I just wouldn't want to cut and paste, just I'm done idea.
Right. And right. I think that's a great point. And I think that's one of the exciting things about ChatGPT as it's in its infancy and, we're seeing it evolve just constantly. I think that's a great way to be proactive and to help students, because maybe you're talking about a concept or a theory that they're not that comfortable with, or maybe they have had no exposure to it. And if they can go to ChatGPT with you even. Maybe you all work together on this and build some of the rudimentary, foundational concepts, but now ask them to apply that, use Bloom's technology, take it to the next level. As you mentioned, John, do that synthesizing where you're asking them to do that deeper thinking. I think that's where, personally, that's what I'm excited to see about the growth in the change in teaching and learning. But it's a great time right now. It's scary, it's innovative, it's challenging, it's disruptive. It's similar to what we went through with Google and Wikipedia.
Well,
Bonnie?
people even thought that having your own personal car was nuts, and people
Right.
thought, oh, people will always want to, why would you want to fly in a plane?
Right.
Why would you want to get on the train? It's like, yeah, these things, there's always resistance to these kinds of things that later then become just like, of course you would drive your own car,
Yeah, I've been thinking about it a lot. Like I think of Wikipedia. I'll use Wikipedia while I'm teaching to verify a year of something that I don't remember. But that's not asking Wikipedia to write my paper. Like there's still a level of critical thinking involved. I'm still crafting or using other sources or crafting my own thing, but just for something quick on the fly, Wikipedia is great for that. Or Jackie made a point about calculators, same thing. I'm young, but I remember my high school teacher saying, oh, you won't have a calculator in your pocket. Really? That's funny. So like, I think about it pretty similar to those. The calculator is not going to tell you the physics formula, but it is going to do the math.
Exactly. And as I was having my 15-year-old son doing geometry last night, and again, he needs the calculator for it. But as you said, Rose, he still has to think through, how do I do the radical square root? I'm not a math person, but he is sort of. Bonnie?
Yeah, I just wanted to offer, this might also be an opportunity to ask students to ask the question of ChatGPT and then tell you what it got right, what it got wrong, examine whether there was bias in the response, and how would they rewrite it to make it more understandable for a human, or human of a certain age, or human with a certain experience. And so then they do use it, but they'd have to provide both what ChatGPT responded and how they would change it. Sort of higher order thinking.
Perfect, exactly. Rosa?
Thank you, Christy. I just want to thank you and everyone else for your questions, so that we're able to, discuss this topic that is so important, interesting, and trendy, right? So I just wanted to be grateful to tell that. And also, I have an unrelated and related announcement that I want to share with everyone, but it's not related to this. I don't want to take over or distract the conversation. If I can give the announcement, I can post it on the chat.
Sure, that'd be great. I was just going to wrap up as it's 3 o'clock anyway. So I wanted to be grateful as well. Thank you, Rosa, for your sharing your thoughts too. And thank you to all of you that were brave and able to share with us some of your thoughts and experiences. We do have a quick wrap up here. Thank you for taking time out of your very, very busy day to spend with us. This is just the beginning. This is just the tip of the iceberg. We're just starting the conversation. We have so much to learn, so many new things to consider, ways to adapt and adopt different methods and strategies. Some of the things that we were thinking about, just try to be curious, open-minded. It's a great conversation starter with your students, with each other, with integrity, with ethics, with growth, with opportunity. And as part of our team, we are here. We can help have some of those conversations with you. This is what we do as we're helping build courses with course design, with universal design principles, backward design. We're doing this. And so we would love to have that conversation with you. But I just wanted to say on behalf of the academic technology team, thank you so much for joining us today. It was recorded and we will share it on our YouTube channel. And we hope that you will reach out to us. And if you have any other ideas for workshops, we'd love to hear it. And, you know, we do plan on having additional conversations around ChatGPT. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah.